Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we are back. Welcome to the show. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. Hey, it's time for our legal analysis segment. We've got Perry Cockerell, attorney. By the way, his website is PerryJCockerell.com, PerryJCockerell.com. And, of course, he is the author of A Private War, which is available on Amazon.com, or go to his website for information on that book, which is a great book. How we doing, Perry?
Hey, Mike, doing great. Nice to be back.
Good to see you again.
Good to see all of you.
And so I know we've got some great cases to go over for the folks out there, and so let's hit it.
3 good cases, interesting cases from Tyler, Austin, Fort Worth Court of Appeals. All involve the same issue. That's when you buy a piece of property and the seller is making false representations to you. They all, at least the first 2, just have representations that are just not true. They're red flags. And in the first 2 cases, if the parties had an attorney, things would have been different. But the legislature protects sales of real estate from false representations, and that's just when somebody makes a false statement, the person relies on it, and they enter into a real estate contract. And when that happens, the legislature allows that party to recover legal fees. Very unusual. In some other real estate type suits, the parties do not get legal fees. So there's an effort to protect people from fraud in real estate.
Right.
So these 3 cases, the first 2 have false representations, and they just have such red flags in them that it's so obvious. The first one was a lady that just had a home that she couldn't pay for the mortgage, and so a man comes in and he says that he'll sell the home and everything above the mortgage he'll keep as a commission. Okay, that's a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like giving him the entire equity.
Yeah, a little suspicious.
An attorney would have stopped this right there. Second thing is she signs 5 documents, but she didn't see all of the documents. That's a red flag. That would never have happened at a title company. Mm-hmm. The other is the documents referred to an auction buyer. She thought that the man was going to put it up for auction. Actually, he put his name in there as the purchaser. Red flag. The other is the document referred to him giving her a note for about $350,000. There was no such note. Another red flag. She also said, I want to take these to my attorneys. And he said, well, if you do that, then there's not going to be a transaction. That's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
Isn't it just unbelievable that this deal goes on?
Why wouldn't he just walk away at that point?
I don't understand it.
You know, and there are people out there that are in desperate situations with their home, and particularly those who maybe, are advancing in age and become, at that age where the faculties aren't necessarily all there, or they get a little bit desperate. They'll do things, and there are people out there that prey on these people. Unfortunately, there are people that run ads on talk radio that will buy your ugly house, this, that, and the other. We're investors. We're this or that. Unfortunately, so many of them prey on the elderly and those who have maybe inherited, an ugly house, if you will, and we'll take advantage of those types of people. Yeah,
exactly what happened here. And what I've seen is some will come in and say, we'll transfer title into a land trust agreement. Notice that's another investor type approach. But nevertheless, she filed suit, and the court rescinded this, thank goodness. And I was surprised that the legal fees were only $13,000 in this suit. I'm a little amazed at that. And it went up on appeal, and it was a very hard case. The man made it very hard on the trial court. He claimed disabilities. He claimed he couldn't hear, and then he appealed. So that cost them money, and there's no record of the legal fees on appeal too. So this was a loss all around for this person. But clearly, an attorney would have never gone much further.
Yeah, horribly unfortunate.
Now let's get to the.
And there were no realtors involved in this case, and so again, it's just another reason why if you're not going to use an attorney, in your real estate transaction, of course you want to use a realtor. We have codes of ethics, these things called ethics. We're moral people, by and large, anyway. Well, some of us are. Yeah. There's 15,000 agents in the DFW area. I would say a lot of them maybe don't, but I do, so you can call me instead. I'm sorry. Keep going, Perry.
The second case is really interesting. You really don't want to see a mother and daughter fight with each other in court, and this is a case of where the mother is giving one story and the daughter is giving another story, completely different factual statements or versions of what really went on in the case. But the mother transferred some property to the daughter, so there's a warranty deed. Now, the daughter filed suit claiming that the mother, that she didn't sign this that this document, the transfer, or rather, was by fraud. And the daughter actually the mother transferred to the daughter, but then the daughter transferred it back. And the daughter claimed that that transfer was fraud. She didn't sign that. She claimed that she intended to sign another document. And that document was a document that would have given the mother some money to leave some property in Colorado. So you're talking about two separate documents. Mm-hmm. One transferring a piece of real estate and the other transferring some money to leave some property in Colorado. Completely separate factual
totally different
scenario. It's hard to figure out, but nevertheless, it was a very contested case. Lots of testimony going back and forth between, did the mother really transfer it to the daughter and then the daughter transfer it back? And ultimately, the mother won here at the court. And it was really based on the fact that the deed said it was a deed. The deed transferred it to the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So the court didn't really have to look too much at the testimony. A deed is what it is. And so there was so they affirmed, they found that the daughter had validly transferred this property back to the mother. And it turned out the mother had actually owned it in the past and had transferred the daughter. It had been transferred several different times back and forth to each other. The mother was trying to get it back and eventually won. So that's another.
Very odd. Was this a case of, was the property paid off and they were just transferring back and forth, or was this something where maybe they were selling it back and forth to each other, trying to reduce property taxes, that type of thing?
I don't think so. I think the mother was in Colorado and the daughter wanted money from her for living there, and she was transferring this property to pay for that. And somehow they decided to transfer it back at some point, but very difficult, strange case. It just shows that, she signed a deed. The deed's valid. The fraud here, what's the false representation? Mm-hmm. Well, she said, I didn't sign that deed. I signed a contract over here, not that. So, but this is another case of a title company, an attorney. None of this would have ever happened.
So this was, again, parties handling real estate transactions on their own, which is obviously ripe for issues.
Now, the third one is now this shows you where there are attorneys. The documents are well done, and but it's just a family that bought a home from a builder. They built a home in 2005. 2 years later, soil erosion starts happening, and then in 2010, then the home starts having cracks in the foundation. Okay, the purchasers sue for negligence, breach of a warranty, breach of contract, deceptive trade practices, fraud, all kinds of things. Statutory fraud, the same one we have here, false representation. Now, the difference here was there was no representation.
Okay.
So you can still have a fraud if there's an omission. So the other two involve verbal representations. Now, what happens if there's an omission in this case? That can still be fraud. However, and the case was won. It didn't even go to trial. It went to summary judgment. It was won because there was just no evidence that the builder knew that there was an issue of soil erosion when the home was built in 2005.
Right. So
what I've seen in some other cases, like a pool, someone will sell a home and the pool start leaking after they buy it. Someone will sell a home and it has a foundation problem that comes up after. But nothing's said, nothing's disclosed. In those particular cases, what you have to do is prove that the seller knew there was a problem before you sold it.
Right.
If you can do that, then you have some recourse. So here they were not able to prove that the builder knew anything about the soil erosion before the home was sold.
And that can be, in these types of cases, it can be hard to prove that a seller, even if it's a builder, knew of something. A lot of times you have a homeowner that lived there for 30 years and, Well, a lot of homeowners aren't don't have a lot of mechanical knowledge, and they may not know of a certain issue, in the house. They just don't.
They don't.
So it can be very hard to prove, unless maybe they've brought somebody out to look at it and you can prove that their attention's been drawn to it, something of that nature.
That's what your inspection is supposed to bring out. That's why you inspect it.
Right.
The disclosure statements now are so tight that it's pretty hard to get something by the seller nowadays. There's some ways, but
well, and just some great cases, great information, and great reasons why you should use real estate agents in your transactions and or attorneys in your transactions to prevent from this type of issue. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve you, and don't get into an issue selling it on your own. It's just it's not worth it. And in so many cases, particularly with for sale by owners that are selling a home, without an agent, there's no buffer zone in between who the buyer comes after for non-disclosure or for any other issues, with the contract, et cetera, et cetera. So they're coming directly after you. And that's why you want to be protected, have real estate agents as part of the transaction and or attorneys for sure. Folks, another great segment with Perry Cockerell. PerryJCockerell.com is the website. PerryJCockerell.com is the website, our legal expert. Folks, we're going to take a short break. Come on back.